We're picking up V'ir She'in Bazakinim, which is 2, 4, 6 lines up from the bottom. A lot to do today, Baruch Hashem. Our shir this morning is dedicated by Yonah and Shushi Ehrenfeld in memory of Yonah's father, Gedalia ben Yaakov HaKohen. We hope that in the merit of our grandfather, thank you. In the merit of his grandfather, Gedalia ben Yaakov HaKohen, we hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, the Shlomo Haben Aliyah, and the family of Chama. So we'll say a lot to do today. So remember, again, we began yesterday the discussion about what qualifies as an Ir Miklat, or how, I should say, how the different resident ratios ultimately impact the ability of an Ir Miklat to actually provide protection and security. And the Gemara goes on. Now, a little bit of a segue to other topics. What happens if a city doesn't have a Beis Din? Doesn't have Zakin Rabbi. One says that the city has the ability that you could still have a Ben Sora Umora in that city. The other opinion says, no, you can't have a Ben Sora Umora in that city. Why not? Because it was in the pasuk of Ben Sora Umora, the pasuk says that his parents will bring him to Ziknei Ha'ir, the elders of the city. So some says that Ziknei Ha'ir is literally Dafka. If there's a Beis Din, then fine. If there's not a Beis Din, no. The man Ben Sora Umora mitzvah ba'alma. Well, the other opinion says, no, Ziknei Ha'ir just means it's good to have a Beis Din in the city. But even if you don't have a Beis Din in the city, you can still go ahead and have a Ben Sora Umora in the city. Another example I will say, let's say you have a city which does not have a Beis Din. One opinion says the city can bring an Egla Arufa. And the other opinion says, no, you can't bring an Egla Arufa. Well, so remember again, what's an Egla Arufa? You find a person murdered in between two cities. We don't know who murdered him. You measure to the closest city, and the elders of the closest city come out, decapitate a calf in the place where the corpse was found, wash their hands over the decapitated calf. According to Amanda, who says you can't have an Egla Arufa in a city where there are no Zakanim, because the pasuk says Ziknei Ha'ir, and there are no Ziknei Ha'ir here. According to the opinion who says that you can bring an Egla Rufa, he says that Ziknei Ha'ir is just a mitzvah. It's good to have Ziknei Ha'ir, but it is not Ma'akev. Rabbi Chama. So we'll say the Gemara goes like that. The Chama says the following. Top of Yudala, Veloshal Azal. We'll say, why is it that the section, Parshas Rotzim, the section dealing with murderers, with Ir Miklat, is written in a strong lashon? I will say, now, what does that mean? Take a look at Rashi for just a moment. Oh, actually, before Rashi, Dichsev, Vayidaber Hashem al Yoshua Leimor, Daber al Bnei Yisrael Leimor, Tnu lochem es Arei HaMiklat asher dibarti elechem. So we'll say, ultimately, again, throughout Sefer Yoshua, whenever Kodesh Baruch Hu speaks to Yoshua, he always used the Navi used lashon of Vayomer Hashem al Yoshua. Vayidaber, we'll say, is Vayomer is lashon Raka, is a softer lashon. Vayidaber is a stronger type of speech. I mean, he's speaking almost with a little bit of an edge. So the question over here, the Gemara is asking is, why is it when Kodesh Baruch Hu commands Yoshua to go ahead and set up the Arei Miklat, why does the Torah use lashon of Vayidaber? Excuse me, why does the Navi use lashon of Vayidaber, lashon kasha, a strong verbiage, as opposed to Vayomer? To which the Gemara answers, Mipnei Shehem Shel Torah, because we will say, since again this is dealing with biblical law. So because it's dealing with biblical law, there's a certain severity attached to the words of the Ribono Shel Olam. Is that to say that every time you see the word Vayidaber, or that root, that's Lashon Kasha, that is a strong verbiage in? First the says, yes, in fact, that is true. Daber Ha'ish, Diber Ha'ish. So we'll say this is from Bereshis. Diber Ha'ish Adonai Haaretz Itanu Kashos. Remember again, this is where the brothers come back to Yaakov and tell Yaakov that the viceroy, who they don't realize is their brother Yosef, ultimately again is speaking in very harsh and negative terms, accusing them of being spies. So you see the lashon of Dibur is a strong lashon. But Tanya, but 1 second, this is another pasuk. So now the Gemara quotes the pasuk from Malachi as Nidbaru. Vatanya Nidbaru. To which the Gemara says, "As nidbru yirei Hashem ish al re'ehu." So we'll say this is not a lashon kasha. To which the Gemara says, "In nidbru, ein nidbru ela lashon achos." The word nidbru, we'll say, is a softer type of lashon. Echenu omer yad ber amim tachtenu. To which the Gemara answers, "You're right. Daber lochod, yad ber lochod." To which the Gemara says that ultimately, again, yad ber and diber are two, even though it's the same shoresh, are two different usages. Daber is lashon kasha. Yadber is a softer lashon. Therefore, also the Gemara's understanding over here that in Sefer Yehoshua, the Baruch Hu introduces the section of Ari Miklat ultimately to Yehoshua with the lashon of Vayidaber, a stronger lashon, since God is commanding Yehoshua to fulfill biblical directives. So the Gemara goes weiter. Pligi bar Rabbi Yehuda Rabbanan Chadam Rav Nesha Shiem. So we'll say now we're going back. So now we're trying to analyze why is it done. It came to your Miklat. HaKadosh Baruch Hu spoke to Yehoshua with lashon Vayidaber, which is a strong lashon, as opposed to Vayomer, which is a softer lashon. So one opinion said Mibnei Shashiyim, because they both say ultimately again, Yehoshua was supposed to designate the Arei Miklat earlier on. He did not do so. Therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was giving him a shtickle musar by referring to him or speaking to him with Vayidaber as opposed to Vayomer. The Chadamar Mibnei Shehin Shal Torah. Others say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu used the stronger lashon. Why? Because ultimately they are of a biblical nature. Vayichtov Yehoshua Sadvar Ma'ela b'Sefer Torah Elokim. So we'll say the pasuk says Yehoshua wrote these words in the Sefer Torah Elokim. Pligi bar Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Nechemia. Chadamar. So we'll say, what is this referring to? Chadamar Shmona Psukim. So we'll say one says what we're trying to figure out over here. We'll say is ultimately what does it mean that he wrote it the Sefer Torah Elokim? What does that refer to? What did Yehoshua write the Sefer Torah Elokim? So there's machlokes. One opinion says Shmona Psukim. We'll say no. There's a machlokes as to who wrote the last 8 psukim of the Torah. We saw this in Maseches Megillah. Well, so why is it a machlokes? Because what are the last 8 psukim in the Torah about? They're about the death of Moshe Rabbeinu. So remember again, we saw the machlokes in Megillah, where one opinion says Yehoshua wrote the last 8 psukim in the Torah. The other opinion says, actually a very dramatic Gemara, that Moshe Rabbeinu wrote them b'dema. He wrote them with his tears. Moshe Rabbeinu literally scripted. He wrote the psukim of his own death. So we'll say, listen to this. So some say that ultimately, again, Vayichtov Yehoshua Sadvar Ma'ela b'Sefer Torah Elokim, he wrote the words in Hashem's Torah, refers to the last 8 psukim in the Torah which Yehoshua wrote. Chad Amar Ari Miklat. And one says, no, it's referring to the discussion of Ari Miklat in Sefer Yehoshua, but yet it calls it a Sefer Torah. Why? Because the mice at the end of the day, it's a biblical concept. It's found in the Torah. Bishon L'Madam Ches Psukim. So according to the opinion who says that it's referring to the last 8 psukim in the Torah, that's why the pasuk in Yehoshua says that Yehoshua wrote these words b'Sefer Torah Elokim, because he's literally writing the last 8 psukim in the Torah. But according to the opinion who says that it's Arei Miklat, cities of refuge. So what does it mean b'Sefer Torah Elokim? This is what it means. Vayichtov Yehoshua b'Sifro es hadvarim ha'ela ksuvim b'Sefer Torah Elokim. That Yehoshua wrote these words in his Sefer, in Sefer Yehoshua, things that are found in the Sefer Torah of the Ribbon Shalom. So is referring to what? Referring to Arei Miklat. So the Gemara kind of segues into a little bit of a tangent. The common denominator here is these are all statements of Rabbi Yehuda. So the Gemara says, listen to this. Sefer Shatafra B'Pishtam. They both say, what happens if you don't remember again? You see a Sefer Torah. And you know that a Sefer Torah is made up of multiple pieces of parchment which are sewn together. What happens? So normally, what do you use as the threads? You use gidin, sinews of the animal. Let's say a person stitched up the pieces of parchment together in a Sefer Torah with linen, with linen thread. So pligi bar Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Meir. So we'll say it's machlokes. Chad amar kasher, the chad amar pasel. One opinion said it's kasher, one opinion said pasel. So let's analyze this. Leman amar pasel. We'll say according to the opinion says that it's pasel. The chsiv. The both say the pasuk says that the Torah of the Ribbon Shalom should be on your mouth. They both say in your mouth, I should say. Now the beginning of that pasuk is the beginning of that pasuk, I both say, is the mitzvah of tefillin. So what do you see from here? That the Torah is equating, or the Torah is comparing the mitzvah of Sefer Torah to the mitzvah of tefillin. What does that teach me? The iskish kala Torah kul tefillin. Mat tefillin halacha l'Moshe misinai the Torah from begidin. Well, say just like by tefillin, we know that there's a halacha l'Moshe misinai, that tefillin has to be stitched up. Now the stitching up of tefillin also refers to what? It refers to the bottom. The bottom, remember, the bottom are sewn shut. The bottom have to be sewn up with gidin, with animal sinews. Af kol the Torah from begidin. So to say the juxtaposition between the mitzvah of tefillin and Sefer Torah teaches me that just as tefillin has to be sewn up with gidin, so too again as Sefer Torah, the various pieces of parchment must be sewn together with gidin. So we'll say, so therefore again, if one were to sew the various pieces of parchment with what? with linen. We'll say, what would be the halacha? The halacha would be that the Sefer Torah is pasul. That's the first opinion. Second opinion, idach ki iskish l'moser mavicha lilchosav lo iskish. So I'll say ultimately again, ki iskish l'moser mavicha. So the other opinion says, no. What's the nature of the comparison? And Torah. The teacher will say that just like tefillin has to be made from a kosher animal, so too Sefer Torah, parchment could only come from a kosher animal. But lehilchosa, but for the halachos the Moshe Sinai, they are not comparable. So we'll say fundamental machlokes. Can you go ahead and sew up the pieces of a Sefer Torah, the piece of parchment, with linen thread or not? And it all comes down to how you dash in that juxtaposition between tefillin and Sefer Torah. Is the juxtaposition say whatever applies to tefillin applies to Sefer Torah, in which case linen thread will be pasul? Or is the juxtaposition just to teach me that just like tefillin has to come from a kosher animal, so too a Sefer Torah has to come from a kosher animal? So we'll say that is the machlokes. Now this is amazing. This is amazing. Amar Rav said, Chazina lehu tefillin devei chavivi. I saw the tefillin of my uncle. I will say, who is his uncle? His uncle was Rabbi Chia. His uncle is Rabbi Chia, Rashi points out. Listen to this. So I saw the uncle of my uncle, the Tfiri B'Kisna, and they were sewn together with linen thread. Now, both say, this is dramatic in and of itself, because according to the discussion of the Gemara, everybody seemed to agree that tefillin has to be sewn with sinews. Rav is just saying, by the way, not everybody agrees with this. My uncle, Rabbi Chia, pretty important guy, pretty important individual, had his tefillin sewn together with linen threads. So the Gemara says, okay, but the halacha is not like that. So we'll say, so just by the way, the halacha is Sefer Torah must be sewn together with gidin, with animal sinews, and if you use any other kind of thread, it passes the Torah. That is true ultimately for Sefer Torah. That's also true for tefillin. Well, see, I'll tell you what's amazing, what I find dramatic about this Gemara. We live in such a different time where we live in the age of codified halacha. So codified halacha says, you want to know what to do, you open up a Shulchan Aruch. Okay, it's not in the Shulchan Aruch. We have a whole body of rabbinic responsa that pretty much is able to tell us what to do in almost every single scenario. It's rare today to have a situation of something that has come up that we have absolutely no reference point for. It might not be explicit. So I'll say it's always amazing for me to see that there were times in the evolution of our people where there wasn't codified halacha. So what happened when there wasn't codified halacha? What happened? You literally had people doing dramatically different things. Rabbi Chia's tefillin were sewn with linen thread. So you see to yourself, I guarantee you one thing, you will find many things in Klal Yisrael today. Many things. The one thing you will never find is someone's tefillin, I think. A person with tefillin sewn with linen thread. A person might have totally puzzled tefillin, cardboard tefillin, a whole bunch of other things, whatever it is. But I'm saying no one who wears tefillin, you can't find it. You can't find it. It's such an amazing idea about this idea that you literally had times in Klal Yisrael where people were literally just engaged in dramatically different Judaic practices. Okay. I found it exciting. I'm really not getting the response that I thought I would. Okay, good. It's fine. It's fine. No, it's good. It's good. It's fine. It says the Mishnah. It's good. Mishnah says the Mishnah. So now we're talking about Ir Miklat. So remember again, in Ir Miklat, so we're getting out into the technicalities of Galus. Remember again, one of the most dramatic pieces is the duration of one's stay in the Ir Miklat. So the Torah explicitly says that one remains in the Ir Miklat when? Ad most Kohen Gadol, until the Kohen Gadol dies. Now the Mishnah is going to discuss, okay, who exactly fills that role? So remember again, there are different ways in which a Kohen could become a Kohen Gadol, meaning different ways in which you're inaugurated to that office. A Kohen could be anointed with Shemen HaMishcha, anointing oil. Rashi points out that this is how they anointed Kohanim Gedolim, until the days of Yoshio HaMelech. After the days of Yoshio HaMelech, they did not have any more anointing oil. We'll say another way, ultimately, again, to anoint the Kohen Gadol or to inaugurate the Kohen Gadol is how you have him put on the Kohen Gadol vestments. Remember, again, the Kohen Gadol wears special clothing. The action of putting that on in and of itself is an inaugural act. Now, this is amazing. Means the following. There was always a backup Kohen Gadol. It was always, because remember, again, every day you need a Kohen Gadol, because there are certain services in the Beis Hamikdash, namely the Kitoras, that are only done by the Kohen Gadol. So there was always a backup. So we'll say you can have the following situation. Let's say the Kohen Gadol becomes Tameh. Come stomach, you can't do the avoda that day. So what happens? They have a backup. So we'll say, so the backup serves as the Kohen Gadol. What happens then when Kohen Gadol number one is once again fit for service? He comes back. What happens to the other guy? So the other guy just simply goes back into the bullpen, right? Meaning he's back into standby. So what the Mishnah says is the following. If any of these three people die, meaning whether you're a Kohen Gadol, ultimately was anointed with anointing oil, you're a Kohen Gadol, ultimately you became Kohen Gadol by wearing the vestments, or you are a former Kohen Gadol. Right? Our Mishchasa means served while the primary Kohen Gadol was unfit for service, and then when the Kohen Gadol came back, he was retired or put back in the bullpen. If any of these people die, any type of Kohen Gadol like this, the Rotzeach goes free. Machzirin as Rotzeach. Ultimately, again, the Rotzeach, the accidental killer, goes free from galus. Rabbi Yehuda says, "Af mashuach milchama machzir as Rotzeach." Rabbi Yehuda says, even the mashuach milchama. We'll say, mashuach milchama. Rashi points out over here, mashuach milchama, koina mashuach milchama. So also remember again, when the Jewish army goes out to war, like they go, the koin mashuach milchama was like he was like the mashgiach, not for kashrus, but for his odorous. Right before the army went to war, they got a shmooze. They got a pep, like a spiritual pep talk. That was done by the koin mashuach milchama. Rabbi Yehuda adds that even if he dies because he also has like a quasi status of koin gadol. Even if he dies, that allows ultimately again the Rotzeach to go out, the Rotzeach to leave the Ir Miklat. I wanted to point out, when the Mishnah says if any one of these people dies, obviously these people are not serving at the same time. These are how people were inaugurated into the Kahuna Gedola in different times in history. Now that being said, you could have a Kohen Gadol and a Kohen Mashuach Milchama. Those two people exist at the same time. Rabbi Yehuda is adding that even if the Kohen Gadol is fine and well, but the Kohen Mashuach Milchama dies, that would be enough to allow the Rotzeach to go free. We'll say, listen to this. Lefichach, therefore, as a result of this, because the death of the Kohen Gadol sets the Rotzeach free, listen to this. Imosen shel kohanim misapkos lahen michya uksus kedei shelo yispalu al b'neim she'amusu. The mothers of the Kohanim Gedolim used to do like bake sales, right? Used to go ahead, but they didn't sell it. They used to bring baked goods, clothing to the people who lived in the Arei Miklat. Why? Why am I saying? Because they didn't want these people davening for the death of their son. Obviously, again, if you're living in the Ir Miklat, the death of the Kohen Gadol is the way you get to go home. I also want to point something out which is very interesting. We're going to delve into this more. We often have this conception of Ir Miklat, a city of refuge, that's where the accidental killer goes to save himself from the wrath of the Goal Adam. Let's say again, I kill someone b'shogeg, and I decide, you know what, I can handle my own. Right, I'm willing to live at home, and I'll just protect myself against the Goal Adam. It's clear from this Mishnah that what? It's like you can't do that. Meaning Galus is also a kapara. Meaning Beis Din sends the Rotzeach b'shogeg to go. Yes, it provides him protection from the Goal Adam, but it is also a mandated sentence by Beis Din. What's the proof to that? That it's a mandated sentence. What's the proof? The proof is that there's a time where you go free. If it was just optional, it's an opportunity for my own enhanced security, then fine, I could go and come when I want. The fact that I'm there until the Kohen Gadol dies indicates that this is a sentence. I'm not going to call it a punishment, but this is a kapara. This is a form of atonement for the person who killed b'shogeg. Says the Gemara, we'll say, where do we know this from? I know the death of the Kohen Gadol sets a person free ultimately from galus. Rav Kahana Damar Kra, the Yashav Ba'ad Mosa Kohen Gadol. So also listen to this. Meaning, what the Mishnah is really asking is, how do we know that it applies to any of the three kinds of Kohanim Gidol? The pasuk essentially says Kohen Gadol three times. Uksiv kibir miklato yeshiv ad mos Kohen Gadol. Uksiv achrei mosa Kohen Gadol. So it says Kohen Gadol three times. Since it says Kohen Gadol three times, comes to teach us what? That if a Kohen Gadol who becomes Kohen Gadol by any of the three mechanisms, either again Shemen HaMishcha, anointing oil, Meruba bebegadim, clothing, or he served in a temporary capacity. If any one of these three people dies, ultimately again he goes free. Rabbi Yehuda ksiv krach rino. Rabbi Yehuda says actually there's a fourth pasuk. What's that? Rabbi Yehuda includes mashuach melchama. Because what does the pasuk say? La shuv la sheves ba'aretz ad mos hakohen. So we'll say because Rabbi Yehuda there's a fourth mention of kohen. Therefore he uses it to include what? Even the kohen mashuach melchama, even the kohen that goes out to war with the army. Vidach, why don't the Rabbanan include this fourth? We'll say first wide line. Mitlo ksiv hagodol chad nehanochu. We'll say since see three times it says Kohen Gadol. That fourth one, it only says Kohen. So therefore, again, the Rabbanon understand that Kohen in the fourth pasuk was referencing one of the three previously mentioned Kohanim. Therefore, again, it does not come to create the fourth category of Mashuach Milchama. Lefichach imos say and shal Kohanim. So we'll say. So first of all, how do we paskin? We paskin like the Rabbanon. That it is only the death of the first three types of Kohanim Gedolim who allow a person to go free. Either Shemen HaMishcha, Meruba Bebegadim, or a Kohen who served temporarily and now is back on standby. But if the Kohen Mashuach Milchama dies, that does not allow for the Rotziach B'Shogeg to go out from their miklat. So listen to this. So remember again, the Mishnah told us that the mothers of the Kohanim used to bring baked goods, clothing, gifts to the residents of the Ir Miklat in order that the residents of the Ir Miklat should not daven that their son, the Kohen Gadol, should die. So time is the Lamatzlu. So the only reason the Kohen Gadol stays alive is why? Because the people aren't davening. Hamatzlu Maisi. What do you see from here? That if the residents of the Ir Miklat were to daven, then ultimately again the Kohen Gadol would die. Is that true? V'haksiv. The pasuk says, "Ketzipor lanut, kidror lauf, ken kilalaschina mosava." Just like a bird that flies, right? So a bird that flies, so too is a meaningless curse will not come about. In other words, essentially what the Gemara is saying is, are you telling me that the tefillos of the residents of the Ir Miklat have the power to cause the death of the Kohen Gadol? What a strange thing to say. To which the Gemara said, so there was an older man in the Shir of Rabbi who said, Shmuel, I once heard the interpretation of this. Was it that there is some level of culpability with the Kohen Gadol? What's the level of culpability? That he should have davened for compassion on his generation. That such accidental acts of bloodshed should not occur, and he didn't daven. And therefore, because he didn't daven, therefore what? He does have some level of liability on this. The Kohen Gadol has some level of responsibility. And therefore, again, because of that, Lemaisa, if he davened for his death, those tefillos can in fact be received. We'll say there are two dramatic lessons that are coming out from this. Then we'll say the concept of leadership, right? Meaning the concept of leadership is the buck stops with the leader. The leader bears responsibility ultimately for all that happens, even though he might not have done anything. Right? He's trying his best, but the mice at the end of the day, when things go wrong, he absolutely bears some level of responsibility for that. There's accidental deaths happening while the Kohen Gadol is serving in this capacity. What does that say about how has he been davening for his generation? How has he been shepherding his generation? That's lesson number one. I'll say lesson number two is the power of tefillah. The incredible, incredible power of tefillah, especially when tefillah comes from a broken heart, especially when tefillah comes from a place of pain. That moves the Ribbon Shalom, the tefillos of the people who are in the Ir Miklat, who have been uprooted from their lives, who have been cut off from so much. Those tefillos have an incredible intensity. The Iked Damasni, I will say others have a different version of this. I will say others have a different version, that the mothers of the Kohanim would bring treats to the residents of the Ir Miklat, so that they should daven for the health of the Kohen Gadol. They should daven that the Kohen Gadol shouldn't die. Time with the Matzlu. So the reason the Kohen Gadol is going to live is because they daven Halo Matzlu Maisi, but if they don't daven, the Kohen Gadol is going to die. Is that true? My Have Leila Me Avet. Excuse me. I'm sorry. The Halo Matzlu Maisi, Ma Have Leila Me Avet. Hachamina. So we'll say here they give an expression. Tovia Chata Bezigod Mangid, because Tovia sinned. So Zigud should get the Malkus. Or we'll say one person does the Aver, another person gets the Malkus. Hasam Amri Shchem Nosif Umavgai Gozir. Another expression is Shchem should get married and Mavgai should get the bris. We'll say that's a reference to Shchem and Dina. We'll say the idea is I don't understand why does one person's actions, why do the actions of the person who killed B'Shogeg have an impact on the Kohen Gadol? Amalei Sabu Mipirka Derava. Shmialim, Shahela Levaki, Shrachim Aldaran Veloviction. So we'll say bottom line is that when there are murders b'shogeg that happen on the Kohen Gadol's watch, there is some level of responsibility which rests on the shoulders of the Kohen Gadol. The Kohen Gadol will say, now what does accidental murder have to do with the Kohen? I mean, blame it on the king. Why is it blamed on the Kohen Gadol? And we'll say, who is the Kohen Gadol? Kohen Gadol ultimately again is a descendant of Aaron. Is the Oiv Shalom, Lo Dev Shalom, Oiv Esabrios. We'll say when there are accidental deaths are sometimes a fundamental breakdown in the vigilance that we have towards the other. Accidents happen, according to Chazal, because someone is not vigilant enough. I am not vigilant enough with the life of the other, and that's why this accident occurred. Where there's a lack of vigilance in human life, there's a lack of Yaftoecha Kamocha. When there's a lack of Yaftoecha Kamocha, that's a pigam, that's a shortcoming, shortfall in the responsibility of the Kohen Gadol. There was a man who was once eaten by a lion within 3 parsaos of Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, where he lived. And Eliyahu Navi didn't come to speak to Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi for 3 days. The idea being that Rabbi Eliyahu Navi felt Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi had some level of culpability in this man's death. It happened in such close proximity to a tzaddik. A tzaddik has the responsibility to create a protective atmosphere all around, and he felt that Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi failed to do that. We'll say the curse of a great person comes true, even if he doesn't mean it to come true. Where do we know this from? We know that Achitofel. We'll say from Achitofel. What about Achitofel? We'll say this amazing Gemara. We'll say this is amazing. This is a little fact that very often we don't know. David HaMelech wanted very much to build the Beis HaMikdash, but Hakadosh Baruch Hu told him he's not going to be able to. What does he do? He purchases the land, but he also built the foundation. I should say he dug the foundation. Something happened when he was digging. He dug the foundation and he came upon the Tehom. We'll say the Tehom are the waters of deep. He hit, he hit like a water main. He hit, but mamish like a subterranean water main, like a pretty significant water main of the Ribbon Shalom. And what happened? The Tehom, waters of the Tehom were bubbling up, and we're going to overtake the world. Remember, we'll say, as we say in Bereshis, the waters of the earth. The earth was covered by water in the beginning. Those waters then receded ultimately again to form the seas. But the problem is, if water covered the earth, the fact that Hakadosh Baruch Hu pulled the waters back to cover certain areas, what happened to the rest of the water? And the answer is the rest of the water was pulled, Chazal tells us, was pulled underground. It was pulled underground. David HaMelech digs down, he comes upon the Tehom, and the waters of the Tehom threaten to bubble up and to drown the world. Amar, so what happens? David HaMelech says, here's what I want to do. I want to take a piece of pottery shard. I want to write the name of God on it. I want to throw it into the Tehom. That'll plug up the hole. We'll say, but what's the problem? The problem is it also has the risk of what? Being erased. And you're not allowed to erase the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So David asks Shayla, am I allowed to do this or not? Leka da'amar le midi. No one wanted to answer. Amar kol yadeh davar zeh ve'ina omer yechanik bigrono. Any person who knows the answer that doesn't give it to me should suffocate. So we'll say after hearing this, Achitofel says, now Achitofel was one of the primary advisors of David HaMelech. He says this, I'll make a Gabach Omer, so we'll say, if it comes to making peace between a man and his wife, there's a reference to what? Reference to Sota. When it comes to Sota, you're allowed to erase the parasha, you're allowed to erase the Shem Hashem, in order to make peace between a man and his wife. All the more so to save the entire world, you could do so. Amarle Shari. So he said, so Achitofel Paskin, you could do it. Kasav Shema Chasba, Shadi at Tahoma, Nachas, Vakama Duchte. Sure enough, David wrote the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu on a piece of pottery, threw it into the Tehom, and the waters subsided. So we'll say, what happens afterwards? Ksiv, Achitofel Rakilo Nasta Eitzasel. We'll say, remember again, they're in the rebellion of Avshalom. Achitofel makes the dramatic mistake of siding with Avshalom against David HaMelech. When he realizes that the rebellion is doomed, what does he do? He goes back to his house. He instructs his home by Chanik. He hangs himself. So what do you see Rabbi saying? That the curse of David HaMelech ultimately does come true. David HaMelech says, whoever does not speak up will suffocate, and ultimately again Achitofel ultimately dies through this suffocation. So the Gemara goes, the klala, the curse of a chacham, even if conditional, ultimately comes true. Where do we know this from? Me'eli. Let's see what's from Eli HaKohen. The ka'amar le'eli l'shmuel kol yaseh lecha l'kim v'kol yosif in techachei mimeni davar. We'll say Shmuel HaNabi has a nevuah that Eli's sons are going to die. They're going to go off the derech and ultimately die. So we'll say what happens, but Shmuel does not want to share this with Eli because he does not want to cause him pain. Eli realizes that Shmuel is in possession of nevuah that impacts him, and he says to Shmuel, if you don't go ahead and give me the information HaKadosh Baruch Hu should do to you whatever he was going to do to me. T'chsiv, We'll say ultimately again, so Shmuel tells him, but yet still the Klala came. We'll say, how do we see the Klala came? We'll say it's very dramatic. You know, whatever happened to the sons of Shmuel Hanavi? And we'll say the answer is, they went off the derech. Whatever that means, they clearly did not follow in their father's ways. Eli's sons go off the derech, ultimately die in battle. Shmuel's sons don't die, but Shmuel's sons ultimately again do not follow in their father's footsteps. Very, very dramatic and very tragic. We'll say even excommunication, with even conditional excommunication, requires annulment. We'll say we know from Yehuda. We'll say we actually had this Gemara before. Where's this Gemara? In Baba Kama. Baba Kama, Sota. So where do we know this from? We'll say from Yehuda. Remember again, what is we're going to read about just a few weeks. Remember again, they need Binyamin. This is before Yosef reveals his identity to his brothers. He won't give them food unless they bring Binyamin down to Mitzrayim. Yehuda says to Yaakov, I promise you, if I don't bring him back, Yosef, Elecha, I promise you, you can excommunicate me. I will be a sinner to you all days. Excommunication. If I don't bring him back. I will say, now watch this. Now, of course, Yehuda brings him back. He doesn't exactly bring him. Yeah, he brings him back. We'll say, what does it mean when Moshe Rabbeinu says? What does it mean when Moshe Rabbeinu says in Vizos Abracha? Yechi Ruvain Val Yamos. Ruvain shall live and don't let him die. Vizos li Yehuda. And the same is for Yehuda. We'll say, what does that mean? Kol Osan Mem Shana Shayiswa B'Midbar. All 40 years that Klal Yisrael were in the desert. Atzmos of Yehuda Hayu Megugalim Ba'aron. We'll say the bones of Yehuda were constantly rattling around in his casket. Remember again, the remains of all of the Shvatim were taken from Mitzrayim, ultimately to be buried in Canaan. And I will say, the Pashtos, the Gemara says over here, is their skeletons were intact. Their bodies were intact. The bones of Yehuda came out of their sockets and were rolling around in the casket. Ad Sha'amad Moshe Ubekesh. I will say, Moshe realized that Yehuda was being punished for something. Ad Sha'amad Moshe Ubekesh of Rachamim, until Moshe David on behalf of Yehuda, Amar Lefana Ribono Shalom. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, Ribono Shalom, Mikaram LeRuvain, Shi Yoda. They both say, who caused Ruvain to admit his mistake? We'll say, now what mistake is this? This is talking about when Ruvain went ahead and switched the bed of his father. This is after the death of Rachel Imenu. Yaakov Avinu decides to put his bed in the tent of Bilhah. So Yosef makes a decision and moves Yaakov's bed to the tent of Leah. So Reuven this is a very serious act. So who caused Reuven to admit for his transgression? So the Gemara says Yehuda. Where does Yehuda meet? Where does Yehuda admit? Yehuda admits where in what case? So we'll say in the episode of Tamar. Remember again, Tamar becomes pregnant. She is not going to out that Yehuda is the father of her child. So instead, she says, whoever is the owner of this ring and this cloak is the father of my child. Yehuda steps forward, even though he could have just kept quiet. He didn't have to embarrass himself, but Lamaisi steps forward. So who caused Reuven to admit his mistake? It was Yehuda's admission of his mistake. V'zos Yehuda, Shema Hashem Kol Yehuda. So I'll say, so therefore, again, what happens? All Ivari L'Shafa. Ultimately, again, Yehuda's bones came back into their sockets, right? Because again, Moshe Rabbeinu was advocating on behalf of Yehuda. The bones come back into their sockets, but still, they would not admit Yehuda into the celestial yeshiva. Couldn't get in. Couldn't get into the celestial yeshiva. They barred entry. So Moshe Rabbeinu said each part of the pasuk represents another chelik of the tefillah. Bring Yehuda to his nation. So what happens? They allow him into the yeshiva. Lo hava kayada lemishkal mitzrach b'shmaita bahadi rabbanon. He was unable to engage in the give and take of the Torah discourse in the celestial yeshiva. Yadav rav lo. Ribono Shalom give him the strength of hands. So Moshe was davening for Yehuda at every point. Lo hava yada leperuki kushya. Yehuda was unable to answer questions. Now again, I will say his bones are back in the sockets. He was admitted to the yeshiva shalmalo. He's able to go ahead and talk in Torah, but he did not know how to answer questions. Ve'izer mitzarav tiyah. Ribono Shalom be his help, be his source of Ezra, of his help when he's in the midst of difficulties. So Gemara says, fine. So therefore, ultimately, again, Moshe Rabbeinu davens on behalf of Yehuda. Yehuda is admitted and is permitted to be and is able to become participatory in the Torah dialogue of Yeshiva Shamala. Incredibly beautiful. Ibailu. Well, now jumping back for just a second. When we say that the Rotzeach goes free with the death of the Kohen Gadol, is it the death of all of the Kohanim? Again, remember, now obviously, let's say you have a situation, you could have 3 of these people alive at the same time. You could have a regular Kohen Gadol, right? The stand-in Kohen Gadol, and the Kohen Mashuach Milchama. All 3 of those people could be alive simultaneously. When we say that the Rotzeach Peshogeg goes free from Gadol to death of the Kohen Gadol, does that require the death of all of them, or the death of any one of them? To which the Gemara says, so Odil Mabamisa Sechamei and Tashma, Nigmar Dina Bala Kohen Gadol, in the Yotzin Shami Olam. We'll say, we're going to see this in the next Mishnah. If let's say he's sentenced, and at the time of his sentencing there isn't a Kohen Gadol, he never goes free from Galus. Then Misa, if it was true, ultimately, if it's true that the death of only one of them is required, let him go out with the death. Let me go out through the death of any one of them. To which the Gemara answers with the lack of. The case of the Gemara could be where there are no Kohanim Gadol. But also, bottom line, how do we paskin? We paskin that it is the death of any one of these individuals. So it is the death either of the anointed Kohen Gadol or Meruba Begadim, the stand-in Kohen Gadol, or standing Kohen Gadol. Remember again, we paskin already that the death of Kohen Mashuach Milchama does not allow him to go free. But either the death of the regular operational Kohen Gadol or the stand-in Kohen Gadol, death of either one of those people will allow the Rotzeach ultimately to go free. Says the Mishnah, Mishenigmar Dino, Meis Kohen Gadol. We'll say what happens. Reuven kills Shimon accidentally. Reuven kills Shimon accidentally. Reuven kills Shimon accidentally. And at the time, Mishenigmar Dino, then after his sentencing, but before he goes to go, so we'll say Reuven kills Shimon, he's found guilty of manslaughter, accidentally killing someone, and before he gets a chance to be exiled, the Kohen Gadol dies. So what's the halacha? We'll say, Hareze en agola. He doesn't go to Galus. Imachlo nigmar dino beis Kohen Gadol. Let's say again, Reuven's in the middle of his trial, and the Kohen Gadol dies. Umanu acher tachtav, and then before sentencing, they appoint a new Kohen Gadol. Ula acher mikan nigmar dino, and after the second Kohen Gadol is appointed, then sentencing occurs. Then chozer b'misaso shashini. Then Rabbi say again, we go ahead and Reuven will only come out of Galus when the second Kohen Gadol dies. Now Rabbi say that everything goes by what's in effect at the time of post sentencing of nigmar dino. If there's a Kohen Gadol who's alive after you've been sentenced, then you go free with his death, even though there was a transition during your hearing. Nigmar dino below Kohen Gadol. Rabbi say, listen to this. Let's say a person was sentenced, and at the time of his sentencing there was no Kohen Gadol. Whatever the reason is, or say is actually quite dramatic. V'hahore Kohen Gadol. We'll say, let's say the person you killed was the Kohen Gadol, but Kohen Gadol shaharag. Or what happens if the accidental killer is the Kohen Gadol? Eino yotzi mishol. We'll say all of these people remain in Galus for the rest of their lives. See, either again, if there is no Kohen Gadol at the time you were sentenced, you killed the Kohen Gadol, or the Kohen Gadol killed someone, all of these people remain in Galus forever. So we'll say, and once you are in Galus, you don't leave for nothing, as they say. You don't go out to give eidos for the purpose of mitzvah. We'll see what all of these cases mean. This would be like, let's say you saw the new moon. You still can't go to bed. You can't leave the Miklat to give this testimony. You can't testify in monetary cases. Nefashas, capital cases. Even if you are a very important person and Klal Yisrael needs you. Even if you're the commander-in-chief of the armies. Yoav ben Tzruya, we'll say once you go to Galus, you stay in Galus. No matter how important you are, people could come to you, right? You could do whatever you need to do from Galus, but you can't leave Galus. Shne'emar, asher nas shama, sham tehe diraso. Suppose you shall flee there, that is where you will live. Shamte misaso, that is where you will die. Shamte kvuraso, that is where you are buried. But this is actually very profound. What the Mishnah is also telling me is, if a person dies in the Ir Miklat, what it sounds like, we'll discuss this in Yerudab, you're buried in the Ir Miklat as well. Even though, again, you might have a family plot somewhere else, you're buried in the Ir Miklat. Kishim she'ir koletes, and we'll say the same way that the Ir Miklat itself provides safety and security. Koletes literally means absorbs the accidental killer. Kach tchuma kolet. Then we'll say the tchum of the city also. So in other words, we'll say the tchum of the city is 2,000 amos around the city. The tchum has the same protective powers as the ir miklat itself. So the Gemara says, Rotzeach sheyatza chutz letchum. If a Rotzeach leaves the tchum, umatzo galad. So now we get into an interesting case. Let's say the Rotzeach leaves the city. He leaves, and he leaves the tchum of the city. And I'll say, as luck would have it, who's the first person he meets after he leaves the tchum of the city? The Goal Hadam. So what's the halacha Rabbi say? Rabbi Yossi Omer mitzvah biad Goal Hadam. Rabbi Yossi says it is a mitzvah upon the Goal Hadam to kill this person. Or reshus biad Kol Adam, and every other person has the right to. This was a very dramatic statement. Rabbi Yossi says every person has the right to kill the Rotzeach b'shogeg. The Goal Hadam is a mitzvah. Rabbi Kiva says no. Reshus biad Goal Hadam. The Goal Hadam has the option to do so, but anyone else who lays a finger on this person will be chayiv misa. So we'll say fundamental machlokes. My time. So we'll say let's analyze this. So why is it that if let's say again Reuven killed Shimon, and then again he's sentenced, and after his sentencing the Kohen Gadol dies? What's the halacha? Rabbi saying the halacha is Reuven doesn't go to galus. He doesn't go to galus, right? He doesn't even. I mean again, the assumption over here is he has not yet gone. So therefore, again, he's exempted from that punishment or from that kapara. What's the reason? My time. I'm Rabbi. Kavachomer. What's kavachomer? Umami shegala kvar yatsa achshav. Was if somebody was already in galus goes through with the death of the Kohen Gadol. Misha lo gala inon din shlo yigla. We'll say if he has not yet been exiled, then of course, then what? In other words, if you're already there and you go through with the death of the Kohen Gadol, then what? Then of course, if you haven't yet gone, you don't have to go altogether. The Dilma hay di gala ichbarle. Hi, Dilo Galalo. But 1 second, the Gemara says maybe the reason the one who is there goes free is because since he's there, he's already had the kapara, he's already had the atonement. Masha'inkin, the person who has not yet gone there, hasn't had what? Hasn't had the kapara yet. This is actually very profound. To which the Gemara says, Midi Galus Kamachapra, Misas Kohen Hu de Machapra. This is actually a very profound statement. Do you think that it is the Galus that is Machaper? It's not the Galus that's Machaper, but rather what? It's the death of the Kohen Gadol, which is Machaper. Now, we'll say, but in reality, the answer is both. The answer is both. The answer at the end of the day is that both ultimately, again, allow for kapara. Again, we've already established that Galus itself is some part of the kapara. What the Gemara is introducing us to now is that the death of the Kohen Gadol is the primary part of the kapara. Now, we'll say, this notion, this is part of the greater principle of Misas Tzadikim Mechaper, that the death of the righteous ultimately provides atonement. The death of the Kohen Gadol provides national atonement, specifically geared also towards those who kill b'shogeg. Therefore, the Gemara says, you look at the bottom Tosas on your own. He has an interesting arichos in this particular discussion. So it turns out that really the kapara of the person who kills b'shogeg is a two-part kapara. One part of the kapara is achieved by galus, and the dominant part of the kapara is achieved by the death of the Kohen Gadol. That's why if Reuben was sentenced to galus, and he's about to go to galus, but the Kohen Gadol dies, halacha l'maisa again, he need not go to galus. Why? Because the primary part of the kapara has already been achieved through the death of the Kohen Gadol. Remember again, if let's say again Reuben is being tried, and during his trial, Kohen Gadol 1 dies, but before his sentencing, Kohen Gadol number 2 is appointed. He then only goes out of galus when Kohen Gadol number 2 dies. Where do we read this from? Rav Kana the pasuk says, "V'yashaba admos haKohen Gadol asher mashach oso b'shem hakadosh." So because the pasuk says that the killer person who kills b'shogeg will remain in the ir miklat until the Kohen Gadol who he anointed with oil. V'chihu moshchol. Rabbi say 1 second. It makes it sound like the person who killed b'shogeg is the one who anointed the Kohen Gadol with oil. He obviously didn't anoint him with oil. Ella zeh shenimshach b'yamav. Rather, Rabbi say what it means is the Kohen Gadol who was anointed in his days. Since this Kohen Gadol was anointed before his sentencing, therefore what? He only will go free from galus upon the death of the Kohen Gadol. So Gemara says, listen to this. But Gemara has an interesting kasha. My havilei lema'avin. We'll say, go back for just a moment. What's the connection between the death of the Kohen Gadol and the person going free from galus? Because we assume that there's some level of culpability by the Kohen Gadol. We'll say, what's the culpability? The Kohen Gadol should have davened that what? Should have davened that there are no accidental deaths during his tenure. I will say, but that doesn't apply over here. Why? because he's becoming Kohen Gadol when?
New Kohen Gadol.
After the act of accidental bloodshed was perpetrated. So why does he have any level of responsibility for Reuven and killed Shimon? How's this to this? Because when Kohen Gadol becomes Kohen Gadol during the trial of Reuven, he should have davened that what? He should have davened that Reuven would have been exonerated. And the fact that Reuven was found guilty of accidental death is in and of itself not just an indictment of Reuven, but an indictment of the Kohen Gadol. We'll say these are fascinating statements. First of all, it's about the power of the Kohen Gadol, the power of the Tzilah of the Kohen Gadol. But apparently, again, the fact that someone is sent to Galus is also an indictment of the Kohen Gadol. Amar Rabbi Naktina, Nigmar Dino Umes. We'll say ultimately, we'll just do one more line. We learned, we'll say, let's say Reuven's found guilty. Reuven's found guilty of accidental, of manslaughter. So he's sentenced to Galus. And then what happens? Reuven dies. Reuven dies before there's a chance to exile. Then what do? Molichin esas mosav l'sham. We'll say we take his remains to the Ir Miklat and we bury him in the Ir Miklat. Tichsiv lashuv lasheves ba'aretz ad mosa Kohen Gadol. He will dwell in the land until the death of the Kohen Gadol. Ve'izu yeshiva ba'aretz. We'll say, when do you live in the land? Havi omer zukvura. Ultimately, again, when I say that this refers to burial. Tana, meis kodem shemeis Kohen Gadol. We'll say if he dies, ultimately, again. So we'll say, you know what? We'll stop over here for today. We'll say, so again, so just pointing out, we're going to get into a couple of more cases of death where he dies ultimately again before the Kohen Gadol. But I will say, dramatically enough, even if he dies after sentencing, but before going to the Ir Miklat, we take his remains and we bury him in the Ir Miklat, ultimately again, also to achieve some level of kapara.